So I want to speak again, say this is part two of did Trump kill Epstein? I choose Trump just because random. Did Bill Clinton kill Epstein? Did Hillary Clinton kill Epstein? Did some Joe Schmo we never heard of that's a billionaire? Did the guy who owns Victoria's Secrets kill Epstein because he stole a $70 million house from him? I don't know. A lot of new information is coming out, and it's the inability of analytical thinkers in our society and the fear, the need to feel comfortable that the world around them is what it is what stops people from recognizing the obvious truths around us. Now, I'm not saying that every conspiracy is true, although they tend to be more true than not true. Not the ridiculous ones, but for the most part, when we say, like, some lone shooter in the book depository building clipped the president from 200 yards away with a single action bolt rifle, and people go, okay, that's possible. Have you ever shot a gun from 200 yards away? Because I know people that have. I've shot a gun from 200 yards away, and trust me, it's not easy. Couple that with a moving target, moving away from you, it's even harder. Couple that with making 3 shots in 7 seconds. It's literally impossible. Impossible. You could do it 1,000 times, maybe one time. It's hard to get the 7 shots off, let alone aim, target, shoot. Just to sit there at the gun and shoot a wall right in front of you is hard 3 times in 7 seconds. Overlook that. I don't want to go off target, but so now they're saying Epstein was moved to Gen Pop with another inmate. See, I didn't know this part. Wait, what? You have the number one inmate in the whole country who's facing huge sentencing. He is implicated with the most powerful people in the world, and you moved him from protective custody and suicide watch into Gen Pop, into having a cellmate who, by the way, was like, if you were doing a movie about being put in a cellmate with the worst possible looking cellmate possible, this guy is like 250, 260, guns like this, bald head. He's an ex-cop. He has 4 bodies under his belt. Some kind of like cocaine ring he was running in North Jersey or New York or something, whatever. Not a good guy, you know what I mean? Though, I don't know him personally, but I'm saying on his rap sheet, obviously he did some stuff wrong, because if he was a cop and he went to jail for it, he did some stuff wrong. He probably did worse than what he went to jail for. So, you moved him into a cell with this guy. Then you start with this understaffing thing, and they were supposed to check him every half hour, but they didn't check him for hours. And what was the guy in the cell doing? The guy in the cell, he wasn't like, hey, there's a dead body here for hours. See, nobody's thinking. What does the human body do when it dies? Shits itself. Pisses itself, releases all its... Come on. This guy acted like he didn't see it. He put a sheet thing around his neck and hung himself, which is not easy to do. And this is my point. And then they're saying no one can explain why he was moved from Gen Pop, from isolation and suicide watch to Gen Pop, but he was still on suicide watch, but they moved him in with another inmate. No one can explain it. The news reporters that release these articles, the editors that sign off on them, they all know that somebody had to sign off on that to move him from point A to point B. It isn't just people randomly move in jail. It doesn't work that way. It's unbelievable that these reporters write this shit knowing it's not true and then just sign off on it and be like, oh, I have ethics. I have integrity. Oh, I don't know. I've never been in prison, so I really don't know. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. And I'm thinking about this because I had a conversation with my friend Gary. He's a successful guy. He's an architect up in New York. And his opinion is it was just he killed himself, because a lot of people choose that and he said, I don't know what goes on in a prison, but I know I can read the news. He actually said that because it's in corporate media, it's probably true. Now, to a certain group of America, that's mind-boggling. That is so far ridiculously, obnoxiously naive and untrue, we can't even get our mind around it. Now, there's a small group of American public that no matter what it is, anything that's obvious is wrong. There's always got to be an ulterior. Yes, there are those groups. You're not putting me in that group. Now they're saying he might not be dead. They might move it out. And they're saying, oh, that's just ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. Is it unlikely? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Who is this guy? There's a lot of conversation about who he was. I mean, he got that house off. He's got a $70 million house offer guy, and then he made the thing look like the Israeli emissary building, like it was very, the Israeli flag is on it and stuff. So I guess now he could just be a proud Jewish person. I don't believe he was like Mossad or something, because then why would you make your building look like the Israeli flag? That'd be like, hey, look at me. But it also could be disinformation. It could be, I'm going to go to the extreme with this and then nobody will believe I am who I am. I don't know. But he definitely had some powerful friends. There's no doubt about that. Now, I'm not just talking about rich. I'm talking about powerful friends. Now, Barr is coming forward and saying, back to Guy real quick before I go forward to Barr. People like him have gone through life judging things from a certain perspective, and they don't like the fact that there could be another reality to our world. Now, I personally have seen the government cover up a huge investigation where hundreds of people died, and they told the country one thing, and it was completely untrue. I was there. I saw it. I literally know what they said wasn't true. So imagine that. Imagine you're the pilot of a plane, or what's a good one? Let's use a pilot of a plane. You're a pilot of a plane, and the plane crashes, and everybody survives. And then the newspapers start releasing articles like, he possibly could have been on drugs, he could have been drunk, da-da-da. And you're reading that, and everybody's bashing you. Go, wait a minute, I was there. I don't even drink alcohol. I don't do drugs. It's not even a possibility. But they sell that narrative. And then the American public takes it and runs with it. And as far as everyone's concerned, you were a drunk pilot, and that's why your plane crashed. And you've never had, let's say you never drank in your life. Like I personally never drank in my life, so use that as an example. But you've never drank in your life. You're like, but that's not true. But the reporters keep printing it. And the people keep repeating it on social media. And then it becomes the truth. Here we are. What is it? When did Kennedy get shot? 1963? Something like that? We're talking almost 60 years ago, and they're still redacting all the information in the investigation. The congressional investigation, one that actually got to the bottom of what went on, that there was more than one shooter, which they released, that they believe there was more than one shooter. See, that little tidbit of information, most of America doesn't know that. They still believe, no, that's conspiracy theory. Well, Congress said it wasn't a conspiracy theory. Congress did an investigation years later, and they said there was more than one shooter in the murder of Kennedy. Just like half the country doesn't know 3 buildings were taken down by 2 planes. Most people don't know about Building 7. They don't understand how that happened. They don't even know that it did happen. These are the things that I'm talking about. I mean, I keep going back to that one. It's easy, Kennedy, the 9/11. They're the easiest ones. But when a guy like Epstein dies, he commits suicide. That's what the press says. Now, at first, they did the whole questioning it. It wasn't a suicide because they're trying to sell papers. Then they got right onto the official story. A couple years back, he got in trouble. People were trying to get it made public about what he did, who was involved in everything, and the papers never took up on it. They never wrote up on it. It didn't get national news. This guy was running around with Donald Trump and Bill Clinton, and he gets busted for having sex with underage girls and luring friends in to have sex with the same girls, and it isn't national news? It only made national news this second time, because now everybody was hearing it. There was no choice. They had to print it. You ask yourself, you say, where were the reporters the first time when he got the sweetheart deal? They were told not to run the stories. They were pressured not to do it. That's the way it works. You don't give a sweetheart deal to a pedophile who's a known friend of Donald Trump and Bill Clinton and tell me that the press doesn't run with that story? Are you kidding? That's a dream for a reporter, a real reporter that wanted to tell a story that people want to know about. That's a story people want to know about. But yet it never got traction. Nobody, little side article, nothing big. It was in, it was out. They control the narrative. The TV controls the narrative. Social media controls the narrative. The newspapers, they decide, like my case, they ran it over and over and over and over. That's what they do. They decide. You know what I mean? They pick and choose what they want to sell to the American public. And unfortunately, we're too scared to take a step back and go, is this bullshit? Now, I really hoped that this Epstein suicide was going to finally open people's eyes to say, all right, come on, people. You really can't be that stupid that you think this guy really committed suicide. I'm not saying he didn't want to commit suicide, although, to be honest, guys like him don't want to commit suicide. You ask anybody, any psychologist, have them come forward and say, do people like him tend to want to kill themselves? No, he's a narcissist. The whole world revolved around him. He wanted information on everybody. That's what he got off on. Guys like him don't hurt themselves. You kidding me? Not to mention, he still has a list of high-powered friends that he still planned on calling on, I guarantee it. Hey, I need some help. Get me out of this. Get me out of this cage. When I get sentenced, get me moved to here. He's not stupid. He knows he's got dirt on these guys. He knows they're going to play ball. Yeah, okay, they might say, oh, I can't interfere with the case. Whatever you get, but we'll get you out early. You know what I mean? You'll be out like that. You know, like the offer that was made to me. They knew I wasn't guilty. So they let the papers run the 7-year sentencing and blah, blah, blah. I was out in a little over 6 months. You know, that was the deal. The prosecutor said it was okay. We'll let you out early. They wouldn't back off, even though he admitted I didn't do what they said I did. That's my point. But the papers still run with the story. They sell you the story and you believe it because somehow we were raised this way. I mean, honestly, we were raised to believe all policemen were good and helpful. All all doctors were honest. Your priest was the most holiest person on the planet. You could trust him with your children. This is what we're taught. This is what society teaches us. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole why it's taught and the levels of control and what's behind it, because you could argue and just say, well, that's just the way society viewed it. Society viewed policemen and doctors and priests as being better than us by picking these professions. Somehow, if you write prescriptions for a living, you're a better person than the guy who works on the road crew. And society buys that nonsense. Ask yourself, when you meet somebody, what's one of the biggest questions they ask you after your name? What do you do for a living? Why are they asking you that question? They care. What do you care what I do for a living? It's because you're making a decision on how you're going to treat me based on what my answer is. You think by me telling you I am a race car driver that you know everything about me, that my life is exciting, I have money, that you put that all together. But there's more to it than that. We decide how much respect we're going to give somebody, how we're going to look down at them or look up to them based on their answer. Think about that. Think how ridiculous that is. How many doctors go to jail now because they're just writing pain med scripts? They're drug dealers. And people are literally dying. What is the number one cause of death in this country? Isn't it doctor mishap and hospital mistakes? So they're the biggest murderers in the country. And I know that might be simplistic thinking because a lot of it is unintentional, you know? But is it? They made mistakes because he was overtired. Well, why was he overtired? Why was he so tired he couldn't think clearly that his level of judgment was retarded and at a lower value than peak? Oh, that's right, because the hospitals worked in ridiculous hours. Well, why are they doing that? Because they're trying to turn a profit. This is the way you have to think. You have to understand it. I'm not saying you have to start a movement over it and you just accept it. You can choose to accept it, but you can't pretend it doesn't exist. You can't pretend that the board at the hospital doesn't decide that profits are more important than your life. Because it's not true. They do decide. And the only time they do anything like, oh, we're gonna cover the cost of that surgery for you, sir, is because they're gonna make press about it. They're gonna let people know. Tobacco companies, they were doing charity work, promoting non-smoking to kids and everything else. They spent more money on the advertising than they did on the actual charity work. If they spent $200 million, which was mandated in the court case, to promote non-smoking amongst children and teenagers, they spent $250 million letting the country know that they were doing it. They think about it. Now, I know this is next level thinking for a lot of people. I get that. But now here's the one glitch I will concede. Now that Epstein is gone, anybody he was associated with can no longer testify against him. Barr made that public, and he's angry that they weren't able to, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Somebody had to sign that paper to get him off suicide watch. Somebody had to sign that paper to move him to Gen Pop if he wasn't off suicide watch. To Gen Pop. But obviously, if they didn't check on him for hours, he wasn't really on suicide watch. But if you're the number one inmate in the whole country, he's the most famous person in jail in the whole country, hands down. Nobody can argue it. There's nobody. Not even Charles Manson. Everybody's talking about Epstein. Do you really think those guards didn't check on him accidentally for hours? They didn't take a little extra precaution on this guy? Come on. This is what I mean. How ridiculous does this story gotta be before everybody, and by everybody I mean 9 out of 10 go, all right, shut the hell up. That's not true. You know what I mean? Like, you're lying to us. But the newspapers, they'll just say it. They'll just say the story and just say, oh, well, that's the official story. That's what we were told. And like my friend Gary, for example, they just got to believe the official story. There's just certain people that, and it's a large majority of our populace, that they need the comfort because they're conditioned to believe what they read in the newspaper. It must be true. They saw it on TV. It must be true. Stigma print carries over 500 years later. It's just, I don't know. At some point, you have to learn to think for yourself. I understand that's scary for some people, and some people don't want to. They're comfortable in their lives. They work their jobs. They like their existence, and so be it. But in my opinion, I have to see the truth. I have to see through the bullshit. I can't go through life just going, oh, well, that's what they said on CNN. Well, that's what Fox News said, so it must be true. No, it's, my dad used to say, he was a very street smart man. He did a lot of shady stuff when he was younger. He worked on the docks for 30 years, longshoreman, merchant marine, whatever. Worked on tugboats, But he wasn't book smart. The guy you wouldn't ask him to help you with your homework past the 5th grade. But he was street smart. And he said 2 things. These are useful. You save these. You want to hold on to these. 1, anytime you want to get to the truth, get to the motivation, get to what actually happened, always follow the money. The money, 99 out of 100 times, has some kind of edge, some kind of motivation, some kind of influence on what happened. Over and over and over in life, you'll find this to be true. Like, maybe they killed Epstein not over money, they killed him but it is over money, because people killed him to protect their money, to protect their status, to protect their place in society. They don't want people coming after them, so they got rid of him. Let's just, assuming he was murdered, because, suicide watch. Anyway. And the second thing he said is, when 2 people are arguing over something, let's say it's Fox News and MSNBC. One's supporting Trump, one's against Trump. One's supporting Obama, one's against Obama. Blah, blah, blah. They're feeding you the bullshit that you want. Your cognitive dissonance. They're feeding it. But anyway, the first time you catch one of them lying usually tells you the other one is the one that's right. And the reasoning is, if you're telling the truth, if you're telling the reality, you don't lie. You don't have to lie. The truth speaks for itself. You'll see that in all my videos. I don't care when I get to the 500th video. I challenge anybody to go back through every video and find one example where I knowingly lied or intentionally tried to deceive the people who watch this video. I'll give you $500. You have a recording of it. It'll never happen until I speak the truth. Even if it's ugly. Even if it makes me look bad. This is who I am. I'm not here to make apologies. I'm here to make people open their minds and think. Start thinking for yourselves. Listen to my nonsense and my drivel and ranting about nonsense, and then take a step back and go, but is there any validity to what he said? Does it make any sense? And go, well, yeah, I guess it does, because the official story obviously is nonsense. Now, the official story isn't always nonsense. Sometimes it's just as it seems. That guy shot that guy because he slept with his wife, and that's just what happened. You know what I mean? And sometimes there's stories behind the story. And you got to understand, too, and this is important, it's called disinformation, something the government is big on. If they want to cover a story, they want to cover up something that happened, they will be the first ones to start pushing the crazy conspiracies. Because then it pushes anybody who disagrees with the official story into one category. You're all nut jobs. You're all wearing aluminum foil hats, and aliens came down and abducted Epstein and took him back to their home planet. They'll release things like that on YouTube. And if you research back enough, you'll start wondering, who is this guy? Who released this video? I've never heard of him. He has no other videos. He just released this one video about this, and it's gotten a lot of views. How did it get a lot of views? There's a trail, Same thing with 9/11, when they talk about there's a trail. Go to the trading that went on. There was all kinds of insider trading the week before. It's not a secret. They know it happened. Where's the investigation? Where's the results of the investigation? Nobody knows nothing. Never gets public, Same thing with the investigation into Wall Street. Thank God for Elizabeth Warren, but she still didn't do anything. She brought the attorney generals and stuff into Congress and said, hey, went in front of her, I forget what committee she's on, and she said, why was no one charged with a crime? It says right here in the investigation that these 6 or 7 names all have committed crimes and should be charged. Not one person? It's a funny story, there was one banker in London, some guy, I think it was a black guy too, and he was charged with a crime, something stupid about something he did. Out of all the bankers from London to Wall Street, no one got charged. And people don't even understand that not only did they cause the problem, then they profited from the problem from multiple avenues. And I don't actually knock it for profiting from it, because that's what they're supposed to do. But the official story will tell you that, people took out unnecessary loans and couldn't pay back their loans. But I'm going to do a whole video on that, because that's more in depth. But it's important that people understand that usually the official story is nonsense. There's a saying, history is written by the winners. The guys that run our country, those are the winners. What you read in the newspapers, those are the official stories written by the winners. You get their version of it, their take on it. Maybe it's not always total nonsense, but there's always a lot of opinion, conjecture, bias, tweaking of certain words. It's all intentional. It's not what journalists are supposed to do, but they have no integrity anymore. They're all garbage. There are no good journalists anymore. I mean, I'm sure they're here or there. When I say no more, there's always outliers. But most of them are just earning a paycheck. They're scum. As long as I get my paycheck, I don't care what I print out. I'll print whatever you want. I don't hate journalists. I'm not against them. I've seen it firsthand. I wrote 100 letters back in the day, called people, everything, to try to get stories out of things that were going on. Nobody wanted to print it. Weren't allowed. Can't. No, we don't touch that. But it's the truth. People need to know this. People don't need to know anything anymore. They need to know what we tell them. That's the thought process now. Alrighty, so for all you guys that go back and believe that Epstein actually killed himself, and that there's no coincidence that they were understaffed and nobody checked on him for hours, and no one understands how he just got moved from his solitary confinement to Gen Pop with a cellmate that looks like freaking like this. Nobody understands how this happens. People in the know that that's not how it works in a jail. You don't just walk around. You don't go from one section to the next without somebody making a piece of paper, signing something, and moving you. There has to be a paper trail. There has to be nobody knows nothing. The camera was broke. Another one. Camera malfunction. Of course it did. Wasn't that just like the cameras in the Pentagon? There's more cameras on the Pentagon than any place in the freaking world. I guarantee it. I guarantee there's more cameras in the Pentagon. It is literally the most secure building on the planet. Not one proper video footage of the plane coming into the building. Why does that not... Everybody, even the people that need to feel safe in their little blankets, have to go, okay, well, that doesn't make sense. And then the government went around all the companies around it, the gas stations, and they took all the recordings of anything in the air that could have shown what happened. Why did they do that? That's part of the investigation? Did you give them back? What was on those? Why can't we see those? Come on, man. I mean, it's just sad. It is what it is, though. We allow it to happen. And then, unfortunately, the point is, our grandkids are going to suffer because of it. Our grandkids are going to have to live in this country where they have no more rights. They're all just privileges, which is pretty much what they are now. The Supreme Court is bought and paid for. Congress is bought and paid for. And because we keep refusing to see the obvious right in our face, and we just do the turtle shell mentality, which is what I always preach. They stick their head in their shells and they say, as long as they don't get me, I'll be all right. This is what I talk about when I say uncommon sense. But yeah, I'll let you go. That was my rant about Epstein and about some changes, and wow. Anyway, enjoy. If you like it, you know what I mean? You want to follow me, that'll be cool too, whatever. And any questions, comments, just, write me up. I'll answer any way I can. Any videos you want to hear, any subjects you don't understand, send me an email, leave a comment. I'll see if I can make a video on it, try to explain things. Talk to you later.